Don't forget love. It will bring you all the madness you need to unfurl yourself across the universe.
Hey everyone, sorry I've been away for a little while, but I've been quite busy setting up the new Centauri perfumes launch. It's called Mirabai, and this one has taken me a little while to get ready. So I've been filling bottles, filling samples for a while now, and so apologies that there's not been any recent videos. It's just been difficult to get this one ready. It took quite a while to get the paperwork finished. I was hoping while I was away in India that it would be finished when I got back, but it wasn't, so I had to wait even longer for that. And then it was a matter of sitting down and filling bottles and putting labels on and ordering stickers and everything else that goes along with it that's very time consuming. So at the moment I've got 60 bottles, 60 full bottles filled, stickered on in the boxes, ready to go off in the post. There is more to do, but that's what I've got at the moment, and a big pile of 2ml samples as well. And so I'm going to launch it tomorrow, which is Sunday. Today is Saturday, lunchtime on Saturday, and so I can probably do another good amount of bottles today. And so tomorrow we'll be launching with a decent amount of stock. If you do see it go out of stock, I will let you know when it's completely sold out properly. However, it might just mean that I need to catch up on filling the rest of the bottles up. It did make more than I anticipated when I originally came up with the idea, because this perfume uses a 1960 Indian sandalwood. So it's an amazing sandalwood oil, and obviously being 1960 quality oil, it's not cheap. There was only a little bit of this in stock when I could buy it. There was 150 grams available, and I bought the whole lot. And so in my head I was trying to calculate how much that might make, and I was thinking maybe 50 bottles, and that was a guess. Anyway, it turned out once I'd finished the formula, the mathematics, the percentages of everything, and then actually calculated like how many bottles it would make me, it's quite a bit more than that. So I'm estimating that I will make around 150 bottles, and at least that's how many plates I've ordered. And the rest will go into samples, but there is definitely more than the idea of I was going to have 50 in the beginning. Now it's more like 150, so there's plenty of stock, so please don't panic buy, so to speak. If you're really interested because of the 1960 sandalwood, I understand, but there is plenty, so please don't panic. So I want to tell you a little bit about the perfume first. The perfume is called Mirabai or Mirabai. You can pronounce it in different ways, and it's also spelt different ways. Another name for Mirabai or Mirabai is Mira. Mirabai was a 16th century mystic and poet, and practiced what is traditionally known as bhakti. It's basically, essentially, the core of it is love, devotion. And her poetry is filled with this longing and this full of devotional love. And I'd never heard of Mirabai before, and I randomly came across I say randomly, I'd been subscribed to a channel for quite a while that uploads like guided meditations and that kind of thing, spiritual teachings and talks, and they uploaded a video on poems of Mirabai, and I listened to it and I thought, wow, there was a one line in it that really struck me, which I've quoted on the back of the card when you buy a sample or a bottle, which says, "Don't forget love. It will bring you all the madness you need to unfurl yourself across the universe." And I loved that when I heard it. I thought, wow, that's beautiful. And to me, it's about the courage, the strength that it takes to open up your heart fully, to feel love, and not just love for your family members or your partner or your best friends, but love that isn't doesn't stop there. It keeps going to your neighbors, to your town, to your country, to the other countries in the world, to the entire world. It's like love that is just love without condition. It's not a conditional love. It's an unconditional love because you've become love, and that's just what you are. And there's no, I don't love that. It's just the love transcends all of it. It goes everywhere. And that beauty, that courage it takes to be that open despite the pain and the suffering in the world that's all around, to still hold on to that quality of love despite that. I think it takes a lot of strength, a lot of courage to be able to feel that within yourself. And when you embody love yourself is when you can make better changes in the world, and people like to be around you because you have that kind of energy. And so I thought it was just beautiful, and I wanted to make a perfume around that inspiration and around her. From reading a little bit about her life history, it seems that the kind of the age that is estimated for her death, like how long her life was 49 years old. And so initially I thought, well, I'll probably make about 50 bottles, so I can do one bottle for every year of her life. Legally, I have to keep one for myself as like a test bottle. So I'd be able to sell 49. It turns out, obviously, I can make a lot more than that. So basically, the first 49 bottles, which represents every year of her life, are just a little bit... The perfume's exactly the same, but the presentation is just slightly different. The box for the first 49 has an actual picture of Mirabai or Mirabai on the front of the box. So the first 49 bottles will have an actual image, a painting of Mirabai, well, it's a sticker, but a painting of Mirabai on the front. And on the back, I've written number and signed. So on the back you'll see, you know, number 2 of 150, etc. And you'll get that image on the front of the box. Only the first 49 bottles will have that sticker, and then it goes to just the plain ordinary box without that for the remaining amount of bottles, and that just distincts the kind of the aspect of her lifespan. We'll get into how the perfume smells. Obviously I've used a 1960 Indian Sandalwood as the main component for this. It's the highest percentage in the formula by far. However, you'll smell it more in the dry down. In the mid and the dry down, you'll be able to smell it more strongly. It has obviously multiple different notes in there. I didn't want to make just a sandalwood scent. It wanted to be a perfume. And so what this utilizes is a few different things. There's subtle spices. I used cinnamon, I used nutmeg, I used black pepper. You get just a hint. It's not spicy at all, but you get a subtle nuance of spice. There's a mixture of florals in here. I used a little bit of neroli. You probably won't smell it, but there's just a little bit in there. There's Bulgarian Rose Absolute, there's a White Lotus Absolute, and there's my usual Orris Butter tincture, which I've used previously in things like Gaia and Dendera. And the Orris Butter, I love the smell of the Orris Butter. It's beautiful, and it's a combination of florals in this. The Lotus is probably the higher percentage, but yeah, altogether you get this kind of floral accord which you probably won't be able to pick apart. It melds into each other very well. There is a mixture of fruits in here, which I've just listed as dried fruits on the note list. It's not totally accurate, it's not really completely dried fruits, but there's a mixture of fruits. I won't divulge everything, so it would be interesting to listen to people that may talk about it or write about it, if they can pick out what fruits I did add in here. But you should be able to smell a kind of slight subtle fruitiness coming through this. Not too strongly, but again, nuances. It's very well blended in the sense that you might struggle to pick out individual notes. It kind of creates a harmony, which I think is nice. I did use a hint of frankincense in here, which might help just give it a slight incensey nuance. There's no other resins in here. Frankincense is the only one I wanted, because if you use heavier resins like myrrh, labdanum, benzoin, these kind of things, I find when you're combining it with woods, the wood struggles to, the amber kind of takes over essentially, and the wood struggles to come forward a little bit. With this, with sandalwood being more subtle, more lighter, more creamy, more soft, more delicate, I wanted no competition for it in the dry down. So there's no heavy resins in this at all, just frankincense, which, like I say, gives it just a wisp of an incensey accord. There's a little bit of patchouli in here, patchouli essential oil. As it dries down, what you'll get is a combination. I used a deer musk recreation. This is a synthetic deer musk. It's not, I don't use actual real deer musk in my perfumes. I don't eat meat anymore, so it wouldn't make sense for me to use that. I'm not into that personally. So I used a recreation of a deer musk accord, like I say, synthetic accord, which gives a deer musk kind of vibe. I used that in the dry down. There is a line in her poetry which talks about the musk parts of her body, and so I wanted that musk elements. There's certain things that Mirabai talked about in her poetry she mentions as lotus, and so I've incorporated these things into the perfume. This musk, body musk kind of quality I wanted to include as well.
I want you to have this. All the beauty in my eyes and the grace of my mouth. All the splendor of my strength. All the wonder of the musk parts of my body. For are we not talking about real love? Real love? I came for the sake of love devotion. Seeing the world, I wept.
Hence using a more animalic deer musk. And so there's a deer musk accord, but I sweetened it. I wanted to make it more sensual, more sweet, more, warming. And so I combined it with natural tonka bean absolute, real vanilla, Madagascan vanilla absolute. There is a little bit of vanillin in there as well, just to tweak the sweetness, but real Madagascan vanilla absolute, real tonka bean absolute. And this helps give it this kind of musky, kind of warm, kind of almost skin-like sweetness, which I think is really nice. And it's combined just a little bit with white ambergris. It is real white ambergris, so it's not vegan friendly, so to speak. If you don't want any kind of animal product, there is real ambergris. The ambergris that I used is beach found. There's no whale that's killed, there's no whale that's harmed. I did a video on this. If you want to learn more about the ambergris that I use, you can watch the video that I'll link in one of the top corners. And yeah, that's what you're going to get. And you should smell the sandalwood. Hopefully you can pick it out. And it's very difficult when you're building a perfume that wants to highlight one particular note that's more subtle, at the same time trying to give a full-bodied perfume behind it without overtaking the sandalwood. Is a bit of a challenge. It's taken me a long time to get this one comfortable, but I think hopefully a lot of you should enjoy it. Hopefully, I do hope. The longevity is very good. I don't think anyone will have any complaints. You should easily get over 8 hours, 8 to 10 hours, I would say, for average. There'll be some people that might not get that. Skin chemistry is hard to kind of tell. Some people, get all day, some people don't. So if you don't get a full 8 hours, then I'm sorry, but a lot of you, most of you probably should. And the sillage, the projection is modest, but you should have no problem smelling it on yourself. I think it performs quite nicely. In terms of pricing for this, the 2ml sample, if you want to buy a sample of this, is £9 sterling, £9 plus postage. And for the full bottle, this is the bottle here. This is the full bottle. This is £177. Originally, it was going to be a lot more expensive. I was thinking kind of 190 region. but we've been able to produce more bottles than I expected. I was able to drop the price, so 177, and you're getting 1960 Indian Sandalwood. This is high quality perfume, and again, this is on the level of Chambeau that I made a couple of years ago. This is on that kind of level of quality of material. Whoever manages to get one, you've got a really good perfume there. So it will be available from Sunday, from tomorrow at about probably 4 p.m. I will say. I'll make a time right now. 4 p.m. 4 p.m. UK time. That will give people in America a chance to get the first bottles if there's anyone that wants, you know, one of the first 49. Again, there's no difference apart from the sticker on the front. So don't panic, you know. Whoever gets a bottle, I hope you'll enjoy it. I hope you'll treasure it and you'll enjoy wearing it. Thank you for the support. Thank you for being patient with me as well, because I appreciate this has taken me a while to get this one ready. But hopefully you'll be happy with the final result. I think it's very beautiful, and yeah, I'm excited for people to smell it and to try it. Unfortunately, with everything that's going on in the world, the shipping costs have raised a little bit from last time. I can't help that. I do the shipping prices extremely fairly. Basically, it's what it costs me, and sometimes I even do it a little bit cheaper than I have to pay more shipping and you pay a little bit less. But yeah, basically FedEx has raised the prices a little bit. I can't remember off the top of my head what they are, but I give you two options. You can have economy shipping, which will be a little bit cheaper, or priority shipping, which is obviously you'll get it much faster within a few days, usually within 2 to 5 days. Economy can take as long as like 2 to 3 weeks, so just be aware of that, but it is a little bit cheaper. So there you go. That's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you'll enjoy the perfume. Thank you again. There is a little bit of a story behind this one in terms of some weird, I don't know if weird's the right word, odd coincidences. I'll mention that at the very end, and if you're not interested in hearing me ramble about synchronicity coincidences, then you can tune out now. And thank you very much. I'll see you again next time. I'll have more reviews coming soon. I will say goodbye for everyone else, and for anyone interested in the odd synchronicity, I didn't know whether to mention it or not, but I have talked about it in other videos mentioning this perfume, so I'll include it at the very end. So with this one, like I say, I watched a YouTube video and I'd never heard of this particular saint before, and listened to her poetry, and I thought, wow, that, like I say, that line really struck me, and I thought, that's beautiful, I'm gonna make a perfume around that. And the same week I discovered this 1960 Indian Sandalwood for sale, and there was only a little bit left, and I thought, oh, do I get it? It's quite expensive, and I thought, you know, I'm gonna go for it. And so I bought 150 grams of this, you know, this vintage sandalwood, and so I'd committed to it. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. It's going to be a sandalwood scented perfume. I'm going to work on the ideas for it. And then 1 week later, my big sister, Sophie, my sister sells tarot cards. She has a book about angels and kind of spiritual kind of stuff. And so every now and again, she'll go off and do one of these fairs where she sells her spiritual stuff, you know, tarot cards, angel books, you know, these kind of things, crystals and beads and all that kind of stuff. And as she was at one of these events, while she was away at one of these events, a woman came up to her and they had a little bit of a chat. And this woman was called Hillary, and she paints pictures. She's a very talented artist, and she paints images of saints and gurus and, you know, mystical spiritual people of the last 100 years. And she does these incredible paintings, and she sings. She does chants and singing, you know, spiritual kind of songs and mantras, and very, you know, spiritually focused in her life that way. And Sophie was like, oh, that's fascinating. And this lady handed her a business card, and on the card said Mirabai. And Sophie, obviously, I just told Sophie that week that I just bought this sandalwood and I was going to make a perfume called Mirabai. And Sophie was like, oh, this is, how strange, my brother has just decided to make a perfume called Mirabai. And here's this card with Mirabai on it. And so this woman, basically, Hillary describes that in the 1980s she traveled to India, and in that trip to India she was told that she was a reincarnation or in the same spirit as Mirabai, and given the spiritual name Mirabai. And so she takes on that name. She calls herself Mirabai. Her real name is obviously Hillary, but her spiritual name Mirabai. And so they got chatting, and my sister came out with, it would be good for my brother to meet you. And it turns out she lives quite far away. It's not really practical. And then Sophie was like, do you ever come closer to where we are? And it turns out that this lady, who's called Mirabai, who's meant to be the reincarnation of Mirabai, she says, I go to a holistic dentist in this particular town, and this is the town that I was born in. And basically it transpires that, to cut a long story short, the house that I grew up in as a baby, that my parents owned when I was a child as a baby, was a big kind of Victorian house that was run as a hotel. It was called Coat Royd. And essentially now it has been turned into a series of offices, and there's different kind of things in there. And one of the part of this building is a holistic dentist, and that's where she goes to have her teeth done. This holistic dentist in the house that I was born in, essentially, as a baby and grew up in as a child. And so this random woman comes to my sister, says she's the reincarnation of Mirabai, and she happens to go to the dentist in the house that I was raised in as a child, as a baby. It was a bizarre kind of coincidence. And so my sister got all excited and sent me a message saying, you won't believe this coincidence that's happened, this synchronicity, they call it. And I thought, that is odd. I'll offer to give her the first bottle, even like symbolically, as it just felt like the universe telling me, giving me a sign of like, okay, give her the first bottle. And so I sent her an email with the business card that my sister got, and I reached out to her and said, I'm making this perfume, I'd love for you to have the first bottle as my gift to you. And she wrote back to me saying, look, I don't know if I'm a reincarnation of Mirabai or not, I don't remember. And so I gave her a story back, and the story that I gave was about a man that was called Papaji, and Papaji was a spiritual teacher, and he had a vision where he saw all of his past lives. Some people might not believe in reincarnation, but this is how the story goes. He saw all of his past lives, millions of them. And in the previous birth to Papaji, he was a Krishna Bhakti, so he worshipped Krishna as God, a Hindu, and living in India. And he had his own temple, and was going into these states of consciousness they call samadhi. You lose kind of awareness of the world and of your body. So he was going into these very deep states of meditation, losing awareness of the body and the world into states of samadhi. But unfortunately, his devotees couldn't tell whether he was dead or not, so they cracked his head open and killed him. Unbelievably. And so he died. Unfortunately for him, he wasn't liberated, he wasn't enlightened, but he still had a sexual attraction for a particular woman that was picking coconuts in the shrine, in the ashram temple area, and he'd had this sexual desire for this woman. Because of that desire still in him, he was reborn as Papaji into a family that worshipped Krishna. His parents were Krishna devotees. He had a very early spiritual experience, and his parents basically said, if you want this experience again, you should do a Krishna mantra. So Papaji spent the first, 20, 30 years of his life just doing Krishna mantras and singing to Krishna and dancing to Krishna and obsessed with Krishna as God. And so that past tendency, that strong tendency from the previous birth, got carried forward into that current birth. And so I explained this story to Hillary, to Mirabai, and said, maybe your feelings for Krishna, if they're strong in this one, maybe that's a sign from your previous one. And she wrote back to me saying, I share the same birthday as Papaji. So it was like a coincidence on top of a coincidence, which was funny. There is a little bit more to the story, which I feel like I can't quite tell. But I went to India, and for a particular reason, which I've not talked about, but I went to India to go to a particular spot, to be close to a particular person, which I can't really talk about. And when I got there, I met a woman, and it turns out that she's called Mira, which is the other name for Mirabai. Mirabai is the same person, the same name, and this woman was beautiful, like light sparkling out of her eyes, just lovely, lovely woman. And she'd been in Tiruvannamalai in this place in South India for the last 20 years, and she told me that she'd been given the name Mira by Papaji, and my brain went, what? It was like another like odd coincidence on top of the coincidence, and so I retold this story to Mira that I met in India of the perfume thing and the synchronicity, and then I come to India and then I meet someone called Mira and she was given the name by Papaji. It was very strange stuff, and so yeah, I just thought I'd mention that. It doesn't really have any relation to the perfume, but it's just odd when these kind of the synchronicities happen, and it makes you kind of perplexed about the universe. I had a very similar thing after the Mirabai thing, where I was walking the dog one afternoon and I thought, I'm going to make perfume on chakras. Like the past collection can be the root chakra, the Muladhara. The present day collection in the white bottle can be the heart chakra, the Anahata, and the future collection can be the crown of the head, the Sahasrara chakra. And you can build them around the ideas of the particular chakras. So like the primal first chakra can be more earthy, patchouli, kind of animalic, musky. Maybe the heart chakra may be kind of rose or lotus or something like that. And then the crown could be like very vibrant and kind of subtle and effervescent and glimmering with light kind of thing. And so that kind of idea popped into my head, and I can make a set of 3 future fragrances built around these idea of chakras. Chakras being these subtle spheres of energy in the body, in different parts of the body. There's one at the crown of the head, one in the kind of the third eye, one in your throat, one in your chest, one in the pit of your stomach, and then one a little bit lower down, and then one at the kind of the base of the spine. And so yeah, that was the idea that came to me. And then I'd made a spiritual friend that lives in Florida, and I sent her a message about 8 o'clock in the evening, and I'd had this idea like midday, like 1-2 o'clock in the afternoon, about this perfume idea. And that evening, around maybe about 8 o'clock in the evening or something, I sent her a WhatsApp message, and I was like, hey, I've just thought of this idea, what do you think about these perfumes with the chakra ideas? And she was driving to, she's a yoga teacher, she was driving to go teach her yoga class, and she messaged me back on WhatsApp while she was driving and was like, oh, that's an amazing idea, that's great, that sounds brilliant, love it. And then like a minute later she messages me back again and she's like, Peter, you won't believe this, but right now I'm driving behind a car. It's a BMW and the license plate says Chakra 7 on it. And she took a photograph and sent it me. I was like, what? Like, what are the chances of... Why did I... Then this whole cascade sequence of thoughts in your head goes, well, I thought of the idea in the afternoon, but then I had a compulsion to message her at 8 o'clock at night. I've got a big time difference in Florida as well, remember? And at the very minute, within the 5 minutes of messaging her, is the time that she happens to be driving to yoga class. I have no idea what she's doing. She's driving to her yoga class, and the way her day lines up, she happens to be behind a car that says Chakra as the license plate. And my brain is like, well, if she set off like 5 minutes earlier, she'd never have seen that car. If she set off 5 minutes later, she'd have never have seen that car. Her day had to be exactly the way it was in order for her to be behind that car, and then that person in that car had to set off at the exact time they did for that to line up and happen. So it was like everything lining up, and I'm thinking to myself, who like, what is, how does that happen? And you can just say, well, it's just a blind coincidence, but that's a weird coincidence. There's not many. How many license plates have you ever seen that say chakra as the license plate? It just doesn't happen. So in my next collection, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make these 3 chakra perfumes. There's one more to go in the blue bottle, which won't be anything to do with chakras, to finish the collection that I did recently, and then that will be the following one. So now and again, I have these weird things happen that are like, feel more than coincidental, and it makes you question the universe a little bit. So I just, that's kind of the extra behind the scenes little tale or story behind the particular perfumes. If you're interested, I will link in the description below of the video that I found that reads Mirabai's poetry. If you want to check it out and listen to some of the poetry, it will be linked in the description, and I'll probably tag it in the comments as well. Whoever gets it, I hope you enjoy the perfume, and I will see you again next time. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Don't forget love. It will bring you all the madness you need to unfurl yourself across the universe.